Everyone. I've had some people notice I'm having some sound issues. I'm working on that. I know it's a setting. I just got to figure out which one. When you're working with different programs and things, you got to get them to all talk the same language. So dropouts, it might be that if it's not a certain level, it doesn't turn the mic on. I want the mic on all the time. So I've changed the setting, which hopefully will fix that. We'll find out. Let me know. Because I'm using different software. I'm not recording this on my phone anymore. I'm using this in my studio. And I've got a studio mic up here. I'm talking right into it here, so it should have no problem picking me up. I have a soft voice anyway. I could talk loud, but I don't want to do that. That's not me. Listen to Billy Graham. He's got a very oratory voice. And although I act and I love watching theater, I haven't performed very much of it at all. I did one play in college and that was it. So I'm not one to project my voice. I want people that are close by that can hear me. Jesus had to have a very strong billowing voice because if he's sitting up on top of a hilltop and he's reaching people down in the valley, his voice has got to carry. And I started sneezing a little bit ago. I got to figure out what it is. I'm allergic to work. I don't know. All right, well, let's get into this. We're talking basically about time. We don't understand time. It takes a genius like Einstein to try to define it, but yet he doesn't define it for the average man to figure out. His idea that if we go fast enough, and it's not 86 miles per hour in a DeLorean, but if you go fast enough, you can change time, you can go into time. Now, maybe 86 miles per hour is what you got to go if you're in a modified DeLorean with some kind of a flux capacitor, which doesn't mean anything either. Terms that people don't know anything about. Oh, and join me with your coffee if I didn't say so. So anyhow, time has always been confusing, and it's even more confusing the further away you get from something. So we're going to talk about that today. And the reason I'm talking about time is people keep predicting that the rapture's today, tomorrow, whatever. From the looks of things, it appears to be close by looking at events. But we could still have a year or two worth of events escalating, getting worse before we're out of here. Come on. I'm going to pause this for a second because I'm going to sneeze again. Okay, I'm back. Again, I'm anxious to find out if this sound can keep up. I noticed that in the beginning it was having trouble. That leads me to think that it was not on, the microphone was not on until I started speaking, and it has to get into sync. If I just leave it on all the time, if you're recording in a studio, music or acting or whatever, you want the sound on all the time because you got the camera on and the sound's on and they're both on the same time clock. If you got the sound cutting in and out, you don't know when to sync it up with the video. So you got to have everything on all the time. That's what rolling means when they say rolling on set. The sound is rolling, meaning your video can go ahead and start and we can sync up. And that's what the clapboard, and they have that whiteboard that has the name and all this stuff on it, and that top part comes down, that slap is picked up on the audio as a spike, and you line that up with the video, and you've got your sound perfectly in sync with a little bit of adjustment. That's what all that's for. The whiteboard has the scene number on it. It has, how many takes. If it takes 10 takes, you have to keep whitening it out and writing in the next number until you get it done. And people can look through those and say, I like number 3, 5, and 7. The rest of them you can ignore. But then they find 3 is perfect except for one word is missing. They turned away or something and whatever. You can pick that word up from the other take, cut it out, put it in over the top. It's all from the same video. It's just different takes of it. So, little behind the scenes update. Okay, so we're going to talk about time. When we look at our calendar today, we know that it is fairly perfect for today. We know our immediate time. I may not know what day of the week it is because I'm retired, but I know eventually because I know church is on Sunday. Uh, I'm not going to other events yet. I have to decide if I want to. And the problem is that I haven't going to other events, whether it's Wednesday night Bible study or whatever, and even Sunday Bible study. I don't like being in my time slot. Yes, I'm 71, but I go in there and I got people that are 71 that act 80 or go in there and fall asleep because they can't function. I am not I don't feel like my age and I don't act my age, but I don't fit in with 20-year-olds, certainly, but I can maybe fit in with 50s, 60s. So I got to pray for me that I find my right time slot. So anyhow, the calendar is not perfect, but it's close enough to live our days by. We know that the Earth does not go around the sun in 365 days. It goes around the sun in 365 days and some change. Well, that change accumulates for a while, and then you have a leap year every 7 years, and you adjust the clock to match so that they're back in sync again. If you didn't, we'd slowly, noon, instead of the sun being straight overhead, it would be off to the side. So we got to do that. Even the Jews in their solar calendar have the same problem. But since they're on a solar calendar, they have a leap month. All right. So the problem comes in when we try to understand history. People are trying to count forward and say, well, this is the year, because I'm counting all the way from the back, from the beginning to now. We know when we have 70 weeks, okay? We know these weeks because we got them very well defined. Normal history, not just the Bible, tells us when kings were in power, tells us when things were going on. The Romans kept very religious, although they weren't, calendars and events and everything that happened. And they've done this for a long time. They recorded that when this king was in power, this happened, because it wants to talk about how he conquered the so-and-sos or beat back the bad guys that were coming in, whatever it is. They create logs. Now, they may chisel them in stone or write them on something more permanent, but they still try to keep a record. Okay, so the further back we go, the less reliable the sources are. We can go back a few thousand years BC and be somewhat reliable. Now, to get all the way back to the 6,000 years of recorded history, assuming that's all the history there is, we can't get all the way back to the beginning. We can look at the Bible when it says so-and-so begot so-and-so, and then so-and-so begot so-and-so, and we can guess. That's what a scientist does, is he guesses, but it's called a theory. The evolutionary theory. It's not called the evolutionary fact. It's called the evolutionary theory, and there's no evidence proving any of it. Nothing. Not a thing. It's all somebody's interpretation of what he sees around him, but there's no evidence. We haven't found any other creatures than what we found, including fossil records, but you can't have a fossil record in 6,000 years. And they say, well, you could have a fossil record that's only 6,000 years old, and these bones could be 6,000 years. No. God could do anything he wanted to, and he could put the bones in the earth and put man on it and give us something to explore and find. He could have done that. I don't think he did. I think the earth is older than it appears, that the flood is further back than we can imagine. It may be 1,000,000 years back. We don't know. For me to say 1,000,000 years, or someone to say 6,000 or 4,000, there's just as much evidence supporting either one. Nothing. It's assuming that your interpretation of facts matches what really happened. A fact is a fact until you prove it otherwise. It may be a fact. We know the earth was created in 6 days. Are they earth days or God days? Or are they universal days? Which we really haven't talked about. It takes, I don't remember all the numbers off the top of my head, but it takes astronomical numbers for things to happen in the heavens above us, in the stars. The earth is rotating was spiraling in our solar system as it moves along inside the galaxy, and the galaxy is flying through the universe, and the earth, and because it's a spiral galaxy, it's turning. It takes, I don't know, 150 billion years or something. It's some astronomical number, I don't remember what it is, to go around the galaxy. And there's supposed to be a black hole in the center of our galaxy. We hope it stays there because it would tear up everything. Okay, getting back to time. We know that the calendar, they've attempted to use the calendar, and once something's established, it's hard to change it. We know that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. That's pretty well given fact by this time, let alone 225,000 years ago. One of the problems that we have is that the calendar was switched. We switched from Hebrew calendar to modern day calendar. This happened in the 1500s. What was it? Okay, well, the Julian calendar used in Europe slowly fell out of sync with the solar year, causing Easter, tied to the Passover and equinox, to drift. So Pope Gregory the 13th, spelled XIII, Roman numerals, introduced the Gregorian calendar in 1582, skipping 10 days, October 4th through the 15th, and refining leap years to realign the calendar with the season and Easter's date. He's a pope. We're trying to line it up with Easter. So that makes sense. But they calculated wrong. And the Catholic nations adopted it first. Protestants followed along later, all the way to 1752. And they skipped 11 days. So you see, they've been constantly messing with it. And something else that's important to notice, that Pope Gregory the 13th is spelled, as I said, XIII, Roman numerals. The Roman numeral system at that time had no zero. How do you go from 1 BC to 1 AD with no zero? So right off the bat, they're off by a year in trying to figure out when Jesus was born. He should be born on zero. That should be the start of the system, but it's not, because they didn't have a zero. They didn't define it. So we're finding out that they're doing all this stuff. We also know that they've got, the Hebrews have Shemitah years. So when we try to look at events can change. We have a Jubilee year. There's all kinds of things can get reset. Ownership of property is return to the original owner in Jubilee year. So if you're looking at who owns something and figuring out the time, it's not going to work unless you're lighting up the Jubilee year. There's all kinds of things. The exile to Babylon was because they didn't honor the Shemitah year and let the earth go fallow, meaning don't plant. God commanded that. Why? Because he wanted to give them rules? No, because he knew it was better for the ground to not plant for a year. Let it go back, regain its nutrients, and then plant and rotating crops. If you plant corn on this, plant wheat the next year. Whatever the farmers tell you, I don't know, I'm not a farmer, but you can rotate what you plant based on what nutrients they need and what they use. There's all kinds of stuff in there that God has instructed people to do, and farmers have learned too. But time is hard to deal with. One of my favorite sci-fi movies is The Time Machine. I personally like the original with the Morlock and as they're coming out. There's been newer versions and I don't like them as well because to be different, they change stuff that we're used to. It's like when you're singing a song and you go, this is an Elvis song and Elvis is singing it and he's changed the words. He didn't change the words, learned them wrong. But if they're not right, you don't like it. So movies tend to do the same thing because they don't want to be caught copying when all they're doing is copying. They copy genres, they may as well copy the whole thing. Put a different actor with a different personality, and that's all you need to make it different. But anyhow, I love The Time Machine. In the beginning of the movie, his housekeeper, Mrs. Ratchet, something like that, goes, "What time is it?" Well, he pulls out his pocket watch, and about the time he's about ready to say, all of the clocks in the house go off, and they're clang, 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 chang, bells and everything going off. And then he starts to say, well, it's, because it was like 12 o'clock. And then finally a late clock comes in. That was a clever way to get us into the time machine. But he goes forward and back. It's a fantasy that I don't personally think we can do, but God knows it. Certainly God remembers everything in the past, and he knows everything in the future. So he's in command of the time. Can he move within it? I don't know. We don't know. It's a science fiction fantasy that is fun to look at, that maybe we can go back in time and fix something we did wrong, prevent somebody from being born who's a terrorist or whatever. What happens if you were to go back in time and prevent, I'm speculating in science fiction, I'm not quoting anything out of the Bible, go back in time and prevent Hitler from being born? We wouldn't have the Holocaust. That would probably mean there wouldn't be an Israel today. We feel big feeling about the state of Israel today was created because of the sympathy for the Holocaust. The whole world voted for it, Russia included. Russia voted because they were already living there. The Jews were living there. And the Jews were living there when it was renamed Palestine by the Romans. It's always been the Jews' country. The Palestinians don't exist. They never have, never will, and it's a lie. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to go down that road. But what happens if you could change time? You can't, because if you could, it would mess things up. And we wouldn't know how to fix it. We'd fix it from our point of view, not from God's point of view anyway. And if he could fix it, he could fix it and go back and remove all sin and come back and start over again. He could have prevented the snake from talking to Eve, but he didn't. What we have is what we get. And what we have coming is what we make of it with God, not what we make of it on our own. We usually mess it up. and call for him to help us. It's like when I'm playing a game with my son. One of the things that we like to do in our free time is to play video games. I like to explore, and sometimes I'll get stuck and I'll call them over and he goes, well, you don't have this equipped right, or you're not using this right. He's got Asperger, but it's got almost a savant character to it when it comes to remembering details like that. And here, tell me how to do stuff, get me out of it. And if I cannot get it, here, just get me out of the seat, sit down, and here, do it, and then give me the seat back. I think God does that with us too, and I'm not associating my son with God, merely a tactic. That reminds me of how God deals with us sometimes. Why can't you figure this out? It's so simple. Here, let me show you. And then we still try it and we still mess it up. It takes a lot of time working with the Spirit to get good at handing out God's mercies. And we're not the one that's actually supplying them. We're just handing them out. It's like if somebody gave us a box of tracts and we're down on the street handing out tracts. We didn't write the tract. We didn't originate it. We didn't bring the box out for everybody. All we're doing is handing them out. And that's all we're doing with the Word of God. We're handing it out. What people do with it is their business and God's. And eventually God will hold them accountable. All right. So time, we don't know. We don't know when the rapture is. It is to our best knowledge that it's soon, being a relative word, and we can't give you a time. Not knowing the day or the hour has nothing to do with the rapture. That's the second coming. So people quote that. They love to throw it out there. They don't know the Bible when they're saying it regarding the rapture. We don't know the second coming. That's defined right there in the Bible. You don't know the day or the hour. We know even less about the rapture. And God didn't want anybody to know. Why? Because that's God shooting the starting gun for Satan. He doesn't want him to know. Would that be better for us? He's going to snatch us off the earth. Basically, he's going to snatch us as Satan's coming to grab us. It's going to be that quick. God's always going to win. All right. Get out there and spread the word. We don't know when. So everybody needs to be ready now. We don't know the day we're going to physically die either. I'm old enough that I'm in that list. I don't have anything wrong with me that I'm aware of, but who knows? God does. I'm here until I'm not needed, and we all are that same way. But we also don't know when the rapture is. We know the rapture is probably the next thing on the list. I can't see how the Ezekiel war would be next. So we have to be out of here first, because I think the Antichrist is going to be instrumental in the Ezekiel war, helping to set it up and taking credit for ending it by destroying the bad guys. That's my opinion. He's got to find a way. He's got to come up with a peace treaty. There's got to be something scary, like the Ezekiel 38 war, and wiping everybody out to get everybody to come to the table. Right now, the Shiite Muslims specifically wouldn't come to the table to talk. If God came down in person and sat on a big throne and told them what to do, they'd go, you're just an aberration. They've been programmed by Satan so long, they wouldn't recognize him, no more than the Jews recognize Jesus. And both the Jews and the Muslims are going to recognize the Antichrist and think he's the true Antichrist. The Jews will be the first to figure it out when he defiles the temple. But we won't be here. Tell everybody. If you don't want to be here, talk to Jesus, figure it out. He's got a free escape. He's handing out tickets to the greatest show on earth. we get to watch it front row, but not on stage. All right. Till we meet in the clouds, everybody. God bless.